So today I will be explaining about the muscular system. Talking about the bicep and triceps, these two pairs of muscles are actually considered as antagonist pair. The reason which makes biceps and triceps are called antagonist pairs is because the skeletal muscle, which is attached to the bone by a fibrous connective tissue which is called tendon, which can only pull and it does not push. Due to that, during flexion at the elbow, the tendon of the biceps pull, which causes the biceps to contract while the tricep relax. Whereas during extension, the tendons of the tricep pulls the tricep while the bicep relax. So, fun fact about the muscle contraction. When the muscle is at rest, the muscle exhibits tone, which is a minimal contraction of the muscle. This is important to maintain the posture of our body. Have you ever wondered how wrinkles appear? Actually, wrinkle is caused by contraction of the muscle that are attached to overlying skin, which cause a line between the bulk muscle. So, this is when Botox come in action. Botox is actually an injection which actually blocks a certain chemical signal that causes muscle contraction, which actually causes the muscle to relax temporarily, which also reduce the wrinkles temporarily. So, for the microscopic anatomy, as you can see here, this is the microscopic anatomy of the muscle fibers, or a cross-sectional area of our muscle. From the diagram here, you can see that the muscle contains a bundle of muscle fibers, and in each of these bundle fibers contains myofibrils. So from this diagram, the largest cylinder, as you can see here, is the muscle fiber, while the smaller cylinder is the myofibril. The muscle fibers consist of T-tubule, sarcoplasmic reticulum, nucleus, sarcoplasm, mitochondria, and also sarcolemma. So firstly, sarcolemma. It is a specialized membrane which surrounds the muscle fibers cells, which acts as a transverse system. This is because the T-tubule have to penetrate into the sarcolemma to come in contact with the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Whereas for the sarcoplasmic reticulum, it is actually a membrane-bound structure, which is actually a modified version of the endoplasmic reticulum. It is also an extended part of the nucleus, which surrounds the muscle fibers in a network-like structure. The purpose of sarcoplasmic reticulum is to store the calcium ions, which is also essential for the muscle contraction. This next diagram is the enlargement photo of the myofibrils. So the myofibrils consist of light and dark bands. The bands are formed by the placement of protein filaments within the contractile unit called sarcomeres. So, as you can see here, the whole structure in between the Z line is counted as the sarcomere. The sarcomere consists of two types of protein filament, which is the thick myosin filament, which is suspended in the sarcoplasm, and also the thin actin filament made out of actin and is attached to the Z line at one end and is suspended in the sarcoplasm at the other end. Lastly, for the sliding filament structure, when the muscle contracts, the sarcomere of the muscle fibers appear shortened. When the sarcomere shortens, the actin filament slide past the myosin filament, which causes the H zone, as you can see in the diagram, to completely disappear. This process of how the filament slide is, okay, try to imagine playing a game of tug of war. As you were pulling the rope, after a certain length of the rope, you would release your hand and would grab a certain amount of rope further down the rope. and then you continue pulling. The same phenomenon happens in the sliding of the filaments, where the myosin heads act like the hand grasping and pulling the actin filament.
Hello and hi everyone. Now I'll be talking about the uses of ATP in contraction. As we all know, ATP produces energy for our daily activities, including muscle contraction. Although muscle cells contain myoglobin, a molecule that stores oxygen, cellular respiration does not immediately supply all the ATP that is needed. In the meantime, muscle fibers rely on creatine phosphate, a storage form of high-energy phosphate. Creatine phosphate cannot directly participate in muscle contraction, but it can degenerate in the following reaction. When all creatine phosphate is depleted, mitochondria may then be producing enough ATP for muscle contraction to continue. If not, fermentation is a second option, which produces ATP without the need of oxygen. Fermentation only supplies energy for a short period and can cause the buildup of lactate. We all have experienced the needing to continue deep breathing following strenuous exercises. This continued intake of oxygen is required for us to complete the metabolism of lactate and to restore the cell to their original state. And this condition is called the oxygen debt. 20% of the lactate is completely broken down in the liver and converted into carbon dioxide and water. The ATP gained by this respiration is used to convert the 80% of the remaining lactate into glucose. In a person who regularly exercises, such as athletes, have higher number of mitochondria as they rely on mitochondria rather than fermentation. Therefore, oxygen debt and the production of lactate can be reduced.
Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. Let me continue with the neuromuscular junction. Did you guys know what neuromuscular junction is? So, the neuromuscular junction is the synapse between a motor neuron nerve terminal and its muscle fiber. It is responsible to convert electrical impulse from motor neuron into electrical activity in the muscle fibers. At the neuromuscular junction, the impulse which releases a neurotransmitter named acetylcholine, or we can call it as ACH, will be passed to the muscle fiber by crossing an area called synaptic cleft. By this, ACH will signal the muscle fiber to contract, or we can say ACH is responsible to initiate muscle contraction. Fun fact, only by one motor axon can cause several muscle fibers to contract. Let's take a look on the major part of neuromuscular junction. Okay, basically there are three main parts of neuromuscular junction. The first part is presynaptic part, which is located on an axon. Secondly, we have the synaptic cleft, which is also known as synaptic gap, which is the space between the presynaptic neurons and postsynaptic cells. Meanwhile, the postsynaptic part is located on a dendrite. Please be noted that the presynaptic and postsynaptic part only meets but doesn't have any contact with each other. They are separated by the synaptic gap. Now, as you can see, this is the whole structure of neuromuscular junction. On the presynaptic part, it consists of muscle fiber, axon branch, plasma membrane of axon, axon terminal, which consists of synaptic vesicle that is responsible to store the neurotransmitter called ACH. And then secondly, we have a little gap right here, which is called the synaptic cleft. Lastly, on the postsynaptic part, we have sarcolemma, mitochondrion, myofibril, and nucleus. Now, I'll be explaining about the role of calcium ion during the muscle contraction. Okay, during muscle contraction, the thin filaments will slide over the thick filaments. Then, central nervous system will send a signal via motor neuron to initiate the muscle contraction. When a neural signal reaches a neuromuscular junction, acetylcholine or ACH is released and an action potential is generated in the sarcolemma. After ACH being released, it will bind to the receptors in the sarcolemma and generate impulses that spread down T tubules to the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Lastly, calcium is released from the sarcoplasmic reticulum and the calcium ions that release will bind with troponin and expose the active sites for the myosin.
When the active sites of myosin have been exposed, ATP binds to it and being hydrolyzed. Then a cross bridge forms and myosin binds to a new position on actin. Phosphate is released and myosin changes conformation, resulting in the power stroke that causes the filaments to slide past each other. When another ATP binds to myosin, the head detaches from actin and the cycle begins again. Although only one myosin head is featured, many heads are active at the same time.
Here are the references that we use to complete our presentation.